wiggle, wiggle.
Like.
Hey Blitzers, Stud Muffin 1986 here. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. I'm going to be talking about my favorite tier 10 heavy tank at the moment. I got this thing just during the Christmas event, and this thing can really piss a lot of people off, and it's a lot of fun. I'm sorry, I'm just throwing it out there. This thing is very unique in the way that it's got pretty amazing side scraping ability. Unlike some of the other German heavies that have these massive side cheeks, just like this big butt for a face, where you can just easily shoot and pen one of those massive fat cheeks when the tank is looking at you, like the E100 and mouse. This thing doesn't have that. It's very, very narrow, and the sides are pretty sloped. It's very difficult to pen. You're gonna see this poor IS-7 just gets really pissed off. And I'll be honest, like, I would say I don't necessarily blame him. And really, when this thing first came out, I was like, what is so special about this tank? I really didn't care so much for getting it. I had the Badger. I'm like, look, if I want something that's got a lot of frontal armor and 10 degrees of gun depression, I'll just play with that thing. And I have the VK72 and I love the 800 Alpha. But during the Christmas event, both times I had come across this tank, this tank just ended up obliterating me. And I was like, what the heck? This thing, it's like I didn't even stand a chance against it. And even though a lot of people say it's not OP, there's some tanks that do say it's OP. I would say if there's anything that's OP about this thing, I would say it's the turret. You can put it in positions like this, get the 10 degrees of gun depression, and have just this incredibly hard penetrating turret. You can see when you position yourself just right with this thing, it is a monster to deal with. It's very, very difficult to penetrate. And even under the armor inspector, when you switch to heat rounds or even aiming at this thing with anything else, you would think you would have more shots or they would be easier, but this thing is kind of hard to hit. With it being a rear-mounted turret, its traverse is okay and not too bad, and so when you shake that, you're going to get more maneuverability in your turret and that shift. And so you can see this IS-7 it keeps looking at me, and I'm probably just solid red to him. And so this thing, in my opinion, has one of the best side scraping abilities you can, and also being able to utilize that 10 degrees of gun depression. But not saying that, I mean, it's balanced in the way that you only have 4 degrees over the front of your hull. I mean, you're kind of slow like a lot of the German heavy tanks. Your sides and your rear are weak. So just very interesting, aspects. And this thing's gun elevation is like terrible. It's not that great. Its AP pen is awesome. I don't really have to switch to APCR a whole lot, just if I need that little bit of extra penetration, because how it works with this thing is you have excellent pen with your AP round, but your APCR or gold rounds, so to say, kind of suck. They have like some of the worst penetration. So IS-7, poor IS-7. I felt bad, for the guy. But, it is what it is. And I had a hard time coming across this thing. I ended up getting wasted in my Badger. I got wasted in my VK72. And really, this tank, just like a lot of others, I guess you can say it as well, is about positioning. Now, that whole thing that popped up on the top, I don't know what that was about. I only watch tank videos. I don't give a flying F about adorable whatever that is. So I don't honestly even know what that was. But anyway, back to the game. This has really become my favorite tier 10 heavy in the game. I feel like it really it really brings out what a heavy's potential can really be. I'm not saying I don't ever get penned through the cheeks. I would say there are times I do, and there are times where I've even had a Yagaroo look at me and just focus on another enemy, and it just feels good. But it's, I do have a larger underplate, but like right here, I'm trying to use that 10 degrees of gun depression, and I don't know if there's a better tank in the game that has like a better tier 10 in the game that has 10 degrees of gun depression and has this strong of a turret. This thing is very hard to penetrate. The only tanks I can think of, I guess just right off the top of my head, that have negative 10 degrees of gun depression are like some of the medium tanks. I think the STB1 may have the 10 degrees of gun depression. The Leopard has, I'm pretty sure, 10 degrees of gun depression. Let's see, the Badger has 10 degrees of gun depression. That one has incredible armor as well, but you don't have the flexibility of a turret. And you can really bully if you can kind of get them in a position where they're having a hard time getting their cannon to point down, and you can just really be up in their face. This thing can really be a nightmare for people. And if you use that 10 degrees of gun depression and peeking your turret and then getting that cannon, this thing can be really hard, especially when you're moving more like side to side rather than back and forth. What I mean by that is if you're moving back and forth, your weak spots don't like change a whole lot. They're more like just coming up over the hill and then coming back down. But if you're like just angled maybe off to the side and you're just rocking back and forth, those weak spots are incredibly hard to hit. And so, I mean, just both games here, like I honestly thought I was going to lose these two games. I did not think we were going to come out on top, but they do. I mean, this tank, if you really position it well, utilizing that gun depression, those angles, that turret, the side scraping, this thing can really be your best friend. But in a way, it's kind of funny because even people that have gotten this tank, I've noticed like don't even have a lot of battles in it. And I think it's because it really has this feel of there's nothing that is like, I don't really know how to put it. Like the Smasher, the FV183, that thing has like an incredible amount of damage out, alpha damage per shot. People love that, or like the T49. I mean, you also have the missile tanks out right now, which I just gave a quick little tips and tricks video on how to use the missiles in an effective way. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. And so, I mean, this one I think kind of has gotten lost in the noise because of that. And it can kind of feel a little bland, like you're playing with a lot of like other jack of all trades tanks. But in a way, I think it does have some of that really unique aspect. If you know how to side scrape, you know how to position yourself, you know how to utilize a tank's strengths and weakness, especially for a heavy and you like heavies. Next time this thing comes out, this thing could be pretty good, but I understand it was for an astronomical price, or if you just got lucky in the snow globe. So anyway, please support the channel, become a patron, link below, $2 a month, greatly appreciated. Love you guys. Stud Muffin 1986 here. You guys stay cool and keep tanking.